welcome to day 7 of Litmas, and for today's prompt, it is the best thing I've learned this year. Throughout this rambly video, I imagine it'll be rambly, I'll be looking over here a lot to unhaul some books, which I feel like is appropriate for what I feel like I've learned this year, and that is me being much more aware, I think, of my habit to compartmentalize. I feel like the best way to explain this is by example. So with reading in particular, I think I'm realizing a lot lately, especially with my past Litmas video where I talked about my habit of wondering stuff about reading, and I think what I accidentally do is that I think about, with books, it's like when I finish a book, I leave who I was in that book, and then I just displace it there, and then I never have to think about it again. And I'm realizing lately that this is very unhealthy if it goes unchecked. And it's mainly because me as a person, I've learned that I don't really check in on myself hardly at all, if ever. Whenever I find that I'm in like situations and stuff, I don't really ever think about me. I think much more about the context of what's happening. So for example, like with school, I was a bit notorious for being like hyper aware of like being so organized with my schoolwork in grad school that it like gave the impression that I was a perfectionist almost. I did graduate my master's with a 4.0, but I never felt like the work itself was what the challenge was. It was much more about disciplining myself and staying atop of everything. And it always occurs to me whenever my classmates would say something like they'd either forget or feel like they didn't have time to do something. I always thought that was a bit strange. And I think I approached my schoolwork mainly with transitioning from like being a psychology major in my undergrad to English. It involved a lot of writing, so I felt much more responsible for my own work because I feel like writing assignments yield much more results-driven work that shows more of who I am and what I'm responsible for. And also because I feel like any assignments I was assigned, it was because I feel like my professors would never assign something that wasn't possible, so I didn't see the reason why I couldn't achieve or at least complete the assignment, including readings especially. But reading is, I realized, a skill, and if you do it enough, you get a lot better at it and a lot faster at it. But going back to compartmentalizing, a lot of me in grad school, regarding self-care especially, I sort of abandoned that, but I didn't realize it because I was working my assistantship, which was about 20 hours a week, and then also working part-time about 30 hours a week. So you can imagine that's a lot. But I'm so efficient at things that I don't realize when I'm not efficient with myself. And I think I like fooled myself into thinking I had very healthy relationships because I felt like I wasn't consciously aware of like what was going on or what I was doing. I feel much more comfortable, I guess the right word is passively participating, if that makes sense. And when I would think this way about having experiences, if I felt like I was able to separate myself or become passive in a situation, I equated that as not giving myself up or away to that situation. That way I couldn't feel anything personal about it for me to keep it as a part of my life. And unconsciously, I guess, in doing so, I think that protects me in a weird way. But I've been put in situations in 2018 especially where I can't compartmentalize my experiences or think of experiences that way. And one example is whenever I was teaching and I had students like consciously look to me for advice about what to do for the rest of their academic careers and beyond their time in my classroom, which felt really strange, and I'd never been in a situation like that before. And it occurred to me that I don't have a lot of moments where I consciously think about how my actions lead to outcomes beyond like artificially or superficially, like being in school and doing assignments and stuff, because I'm not even when things happen to me, I'm not very reactive to them. Like my demeanor that you guys know of, being very calm or the same, like whatever, that's literally me all the time. Like I never get mad, I don't have tension, I don't create conflict, and it's not because I'm afraid of confrontation. I've learned, it's just that I don't know, I'm sort of nihilistic about it, because I feel like almost in all situations it's sort of me wondering like, what's the point? And that's not to say that I don't care about instances where I have to think about those things, because it will involve usually another person, and I care much more about what happens to that person versus what happens to me. And that comes back to self-care, because I find myself, as years pass, that I don't remember who I was or what I felt at any like timestamp of my life. And so where I can't remember those instances about me in my own personhood, I guess, whenever opportunities arise, because I always really like to challenge myself and learn too. So when things in my life come up, I feel not obligated, but I feel like it's a great opportunity to accept those opportunities. For example, a perfect example is yesterday. Whenever I got to work, I received this email from my past professor offering me to teach this coming spring semester an online English class that I taught before to high schoolers. And my initial impression was to accept it, because thinking of the positives, which is usually what I do in any situation, I think of the positives or, why nots. But ultimately I declined. I think I have this voice in the back of my head that always tries to tell me that sometimes things are too much. And usually when things are too much for me, I compartmentalize them, whether I guess apparently me reading something and then I leave my feelings in the book and then shut it, and then that feels like a process that my body's getting used to, that creates this fog where I can't really remember things anymore, or like maybe then my demeanor, my very patient, soft, meek demeanor, is because I may be inside my head too much to have reactions. So this year was definitely the year of me sort of realizing not only how I compartmentalize, but I'm always very readily adaptable to things. I adapt so easily to situations. Even normally, where I would consider myself an introverted person, but whenever I'm in a position or an environment to be extroverted, I will more than willing be that person. Like at work, it requires a lot of the time for me to be extroverted and to show leadership with my student employees and to be that person. Or whenever I worked in retail, I was that person. And yeah, it's really weird how I'm able to designate which part of me I'm supposed to be, which makes me sound like a sociopath, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm really sorry to put you through this video. My bookshelf is falling apart now. This video probably did not make sense at all, so thank you for watching if you did, but I will see you for tomorrow's day of Litmas.